Hi everybody, how you doing? Thank you for joining Creed's first ever care webinar. So I'm Andy Williams and I'm Creed's care specialist. And hospitality in care has been undervalued, understaffed, underfunded and overlooked. And it's one of the few scratch cooking sectors in hospitality as well. But we're starting to see a positive shift in attention, with more investment in time and money from care businesses. So with the majority of care companies relying on privately funded residents to survive and grow, they need to appeal to the baby boomers generation that has wealth and has high expectation. So at Creed, we're actually building a whole series of solutions, support materials, and insight to help the challenges faced within the care sector. So this will then enable care companies to market and to help deal and help to achieve first-class hospitality that in turn will drive revenue and reduce staff turnover. So what I just want to do at the moment is just do a little bit of housekeeping in regards to the webinar, because it's the first one we've done, so bear with us. So this is actually being recorded, so luckily I can watch this over and over again. Screens and sounds will be off for those that are attending. Any questions, there's a Q&A box at the bottom, so please just throughout the whole of the presentation, if you please just write any questions that you have in there, and then we'll come to address them at the end with one of our guest panelists as well, Jamie Clues from RoboCoop. And what we'll do, following on from the webinar, we'll actually send you a link to the video, we'll send you the presentation, and also there'll be a handout as well that goes along dysphagia and IDDSI, and that we'll be sending out for you. We should be round about 40-45 minutes on the webinar, and throughout the whole course of the presentation and the webinar today, there will be some polls that will be popping up. So please, get involved as much as possible and kind of cast your votes. So what I'm going to do now, we have, just due to the world of technology, we have just pre-recorded this bit, but I'm going to pass you over now, and so we can talk about the agenda. So here's the lovely smiling faces that you're going to see today. Obviously myself as the Creed's care specialist, my colleague Anna, who's our insight manager, Jamie Clues from RoboCoop, and indeed our development chef, James. So we're covering dysphagia and IDDSI, which is two very important topics in care. We're going to talk about what is dysphagia, and that's going to be covered off by Anna, our insight manager. We're going to be covering off what is IDDSI. We're then going to be going through and talking about the IDDSI levels explained. We're going to move on then to achieving the right IDDSI level, and that's when we're going to go to Jamie's live kitchen. We're going to go and then we're going to talk to our development chef, James, and about products that we have within our business to support you. And then we're going to round it all off with a helpful handout and a Q&A. So what we do know is this is a very passionate topic, and we're seeing more emphasis being put into delivering first-class textured foods in care with extremely dedicated catering teams. What we do need to ensure, though, is that information and knowledge is being shared. So a whole business approach, not just the people in the kitchen, but a whole business approach needs to be done throughout a care home. So that's in and outside of the kitchen in order to achieve true success. So from today's webinar, what can you expect? So you can expect to gain an understanding of dysphagia and IDDSI, and some great pointers that you'll be able to take away with you and implement tomorrow. So and later on in the year, but firstly we need some foundations of which we can look to build on with you. I'm now going to pass you over to Anna, who's going to then talk to you about what is dysphagia.
Hi, I'm Anna Clapson. I'm Insights Manager here at Creed Food Service. I'm going to take you through a little bit about dysphagia, what causes it, and what are its signs and symptoms. So dysphagia is the medical term for swallowing difficulties. And this is when a person has problems with swallowing certain kind of like foods or drinks, whilst some people can't swallow at all. And the actual process of swallowing is very difficult. And there are many different reasons why dysphagia can develop. It can affect individuals of all ages. It can be there in the long or the short term, and it can improve or it can worsen with time. So data shows that over 50% of care home residents suffer with some form of dysphagia. And when we look at dysphagia, there are two types. So the first is the mouth and the throat, and this is known as the oropharyngeal dysphagia. The second affects the esophagus, and this is known as the esophageal dysphagia. And these can occur on their own or they can occur together. And if we then look at kind of like causes and reasons for this condition, we'll look at a few here. So first off is obstruction. So this is when another health condition causes an obstruction in the throat, or it can cause a narrowing of the esophagus. So examples of this might be throat or mouth cancer, radiotherapy, which can cause scar tissue, throat pouches. So this affects the esophagus, and although it is rare, it does typically affect older people. And then we've also got infections, so like tuberculosis and thrush, which again can cause inflammation within this area. The next we'll look at is muscular conditions. So there are two types that are linked with dysphagia, and they are rare. First is scleroderma, and this is when the immune system attacks the healthy tissue, and then this causes the muscles within the throat and the esophagus to tighten. The next is achalasia, and this is when the muscles actually lose their ability to relax in order to allow food to enter the stomach. Next, we'll look at neurological causes, so when the nervous system is damaged. And this can interfere with then the nerves controlling that motion of swallowing. And again, this could be from a number of other health conditions such as stroke, brain tumour, multiple sclerosis, motor neurons disease, Parkinson's, or dementia. And then lastly, we'll look at congenital and developmental conditions. So something that a person may be born with, or actually maybe something that affects their development. So cerebral palsy or learning disabilities, it may affect then the movement or the coordination or the learning of that process of swallowing. So while dysphagia is caused by a number of other health conditions that we've just mentioned in the previous slide, there are a number of signs and symptoms to look out for. So these can include, but are not limited to, when a person is eating or drinking, are they coughing or choking whilst consuming their food? When food is consumed, that food then comes back up, and this may sometimes be through the nose. A feeling or a sensation that food is kind of stuck in your throat or chest area. If a person is unable or doesn't have the ability to control their food or saliva, so this may result in drooling. If a person is unable to chew food properly. And then once a person has consumed their food, is their voice kind of a wet sound or a gurgling sound? So, you know, these signs and symptoms then lead to a number of different complications, you know, such as discomfort, pain, weight loss, you know, malnutrition, dehydration, chest infections, and in some cases then people can form an aversion to consuming food and drink. So I hope this gives you kind of a short understanding of what dysphagia is, what causes it, and I'll pass you back on to Andy to talk through kind of like the IDDSI framework, which details how to modify the texture of food when you're catering for residents with dysphagia. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, Anna pre-recorded that due to the fact that she had some seriously long words in that. So yeah, thank you, Anna. Thank you for that. So I just want to tell you a little bit about what IDDSI is, or IDDSI. There's a reason why it was shortened, because it's a very long phrase. So IDDSI stands for International Dysphagia Diets Standardization Initiative. This is a global framework and standard for texture modified foods and fluid for people with dysphagia. So this was from a collaboration of countries and a collaboration of professionals as well, such as speech and language therapists, food scientists, nurses, and dietitians. and the aim for this, it was to make simple and easy descriptors and terminology that could be followed safely, allowing a person with dysphagia to consume the correct food and fluids. Starting in April 2013, this is when the journey started, and it was launched in the UK in April 2019. And this actually replaced the dysphagia diet food texture descriptors that you might have been aware of before. And that was launched in April 2011, which was a UK-based framework, and it wasn't global. And whilst the previous one was followed, it was probably only mildly known in the sector, but IDDSI is really getting some traction now and pushing forward, so most operators are now using this. Whilst there is no legal requirement, though, to follow the framework for a business or a person, it is certainly best practice in order to do this, to avoid any Chinese whispers of textures and what's needed and what actually ends up being consumed. So it gives people the confidence that the right food and drink is being given to support things like oral control, improve sensory awareness, and reduce the risk of aspiration, which in turn then can lead to aspirational pneumonia. So, and little do people know that actually that is one of the largest causes of death in care homes as well. So as we kind of look to move on and look to go through the levels of IDDSI then that are out there. So the IDDSI framework compromises of 8 levels. So there's the levels from 0 through to 7. So drinks are measured between 0 and 4, 0 being a non-adapted texture, all the way up to 4. Foods are then measured from level 3 to level 7, with level 7 then be a non-adapted texture as well to the food. And then there's a slight crossover then between food and fluids at levels 3 and levels 4. So, and each of these specific levels and specific numbers has a specified standards with clear characteristics and specifications. And levels are defined by measurements, additional testing methods, and they're assigned to each of these levels. And in your home, perhaps you can, improve safety and identification from these through text labels, number labels, or even coloured labels as well. And if you're unsure about what level a person in your care is needing, you must, consult with the local speech and language therapist, and we mustn't forget that, someone's dysphagia can worsen and it can improve over time. So make sure that we're constantly monitoring that as well. So achieving the right IDDSI level. So for this and kind of what's needed. So, first and foremost, it is a full company approach, so a full care home approach in order to achieve the right IDDSI level. Training and awareness needs to be delivered both in the kitchen and out of the kitchen, and awareness. There needs to be time to create and deliver first-class food and hospitality. The right equipment, so that's both from a food perspective in order to create it, and then the people that are actually dining, so maybe with their dexterity and the right kind of knives or the right forks. And most importantly, that individual has been assessed and monitored to make sure the right level is being given. So, and whilst today we only have a short period of time, we want to demonstrate on just the most common level for you today. So that is level 4, so a thick puree. because if we wanted to cover off each of those, 0 to 8 levels today, we're talking about half an hour to 45 minutes per level, and probably about a 3-hour session. So we will be covering that as well later on in the year and really kind of diving into those levels and presentation of those. But now what I want to do, I want to pass you over to Jamie Clues of RoboCoop. And those of you that don't know Jamie or haven't seen Jamie, Jamie is an industry and sector lead around IDDSI, and he's produced training for the most forward-thinking care groups in the UK. And it's very privileged to have him on today. So Jamie, I'll pass over to you.
Great, thank you very much. Cheers, Andy. Hi everyone. So my name is Jamie Clues. I'm the key account manager here at RoboCoop UK. I basically, as Andy said, I've specialised more when it comes to sort of texture modified foods and IDDSI levels, obviously using the RoboCoop Blixer. So quickly, just to go over a couple of questions, I know have just come up on the Q&As. Jordan, how do I know IDDSI levels, what IDDSI levels you need to give to the resident? Speech and language therapist. So you speak to them and they'll obviously tell you the correct texture that you'll need for that particular resident. What equipment do you need to create the right IDDSI level? Obviously, I'm going to say RoboCoop. The Blixer here, which we're going to go through, is designed for texture modified food from level 3 to level 5. But we'll go through that in a little bit more detail in a second. And the final one was Samantha Nash. I've seen a couple of questions on there for you. You've got diabetic and gluten-free on a puree diet. Can we give you some ideas for snacks, savoury, suitable for them to build them up? Yes, sandwiches, biscuits, cakes, well, obviously diabetic cakes, gluten-free bread is what I'm saying with the sandwiches. We're today going to make some toast. So I'll show you how that works. Because you need to build them up, fortification is key. So you want to make sure you're putting something like milk powders in there, for example, just to fortify them back up. And what was the last question? Oh, what can I give someone who has forgotten how to swallow and we have problems getting them to eat a puree diet? Hopefully what I'm going to show you now can give you a little bit more of an insight in what's possible, okay? So we'll go through that and we'll show you the options on there. So let me just tick these off. So we've answered those. But any more questions, as I've just proved, we're seeing them on the Q&A, so feel free to bring those up. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to show you a full English breakfast. Now, I've got a lot of elements here, but generally within the care home, you might do beans on toast. You might do eggs on toast or a sausage and bacon, whatever it might be. So you're not going to do all of these elements, but I've done them today just to give you a really good insight, okay? So, Blixer, slightly different to most machines. You've got that internal paddle system. So let me just come on here and I'll show you. Internal paddle system there. It's designed to keep the side of the bowl clean. You've also got a fine serrated blade. So for those that haven't seen this before, bottom one faces up, top one there faces down. And what that does is it's designed to puree the food down, which is where we can get to level 3, 4 and 5. Now, if you were preparing, say, 2 meals on level 3, 2 on level 4 and 2 on level 5, you put 6 portions in here, pulse the machine, take it out, do your checks for level 5, so the 4mm pieces or 2mm for children. Blend it down so you've then got the level 4, add a bit of the puree to your level 5, so then you've got your minced and your moist. You've then got your puree, adapt where you might need to, take that out, add some more liquid, which should be fortified, run it again, you've now got level 3. So in one machine, you can do all the different levels, okay? So what I'm going to do first, we're going to do baked beans. And what I've done here is I've drained off the baked beans. The reason is, if I blend this up and there's too much liquid in there, we can't take the liquid out. We have to then add a thickening agent. By draining it off first, I can then add the amount of liquid that I want into the machine, okay, to get it to that correct level 4 test. So if I just show you from the top of the machine there so you can see inside. And what we're going to do is we're literally just going to blend this up nice and quickly. We're going to use this scraper arm to keep it nice and clean. Blend that down on the top. And then I want to show you inside. Already, we're getting them down reasonably smooth. You can see there's still a few particles, but we've only just run that for a few seconds. Now, if you're not using a RoboCoop Blixer and you are using a food processor or a bowl cutter or a stick blender, you will need to sieve this every single time. Using the Blixer, it just allows you to be able to take it down a lot better, but you still need to do the same checks. So I've had a little bit more liquid in there, which is the sauce. I'm then going to blend that a little bit more, keeping the side of that bowl clean. We're then going to have a look inside, see where we are, and we're almost there, okay? So before I'm going to blend this a little bit further, I just want to do a couple of checks. So first one, the fork test. So we're doing those little lines through there, and they should just still sit there, okay? Then if we take a little piece from the top, so let's bring you over to this camera, we should lift this up, and you see there's a tail, but it shouldn't be constantly dripping through. That there is ever so slightly just holding. So it's, I would say that at the moment is the correct texture. We've got the large pieces falling off, but we've also got a heap on the top here, okay? Then the final check, you want to take a spoon, you want to put some mixture on the side like that, you want to gently flick off, and they should be left with a little bit of residue on the spoon, but not a huge amount, okay? So that's the flick test. That's to check that it's not too thick. Years ago, level 4 or puree would be, you could say peanut butter was a level 4 because it was the smooth peanut butter. But under new IDDSI guidelines, it won't pass that flick test, so it's not going to work, okay? So you see there, we've just got a small amount of sauce left, okay? Now, if I put that into the machine, I would have blended that down. That would have been too runny. Then we would have had to add a thickening agent. Now, we've got the Nutritious that obviously you can buy through Creeds. This is perfect stuff. I've used this for most of the items here. For the egg yolk, because I had to add a fortified liquid to it, so we didn't want it to leach. If you're going to do any pureed vegetables, steamed or boiled vegetables, you're going to want to add a small amount of this, not to thicken it up, but to stop that leaching. And what I mean by leaching is that little bit of water around the edge of the plate, okay? So we're going to show today a level 4 full English breakfast. Key thing to remember when it comes to level 4, everything on this plate must be level 4, okay? And the biggest question, one of the big things I'm always getting asked is when it comes to chicken dinner, for example, roast dinner, people are always wondering about the gravy. Can you serve gravy to someone on a level 4? And the answer is no, unless the speech and language therapist says you can. Okay, that's the best way to put it. So a level 4, if you want gravy on there, the gravy has to be blended, say, with the protein. So say, for example, it was a chicken roast dinner. What I would do is blend the roasted chicken, and I would add the gravy as a fortified liquid to allow and bring that back down, to get it to that correct texture. There's no point adding a water and then adding thickener and bringing it back and then trying to thicken the gravy. If the resident wants gravy, for example, with their chicken or beef or lamb dinner, blend it up with the ingredients, okay? Now, roughly about 11 years ago, I would say, Robocoop started the campaign Dine with Dignity. And what this was basically, we're trying to get people, whether you're on a level 4, whether you're on a level 7 EC, 5, 3, whatever it is, to have as much dignity as possible with their food, okay? And what that means is, years ago, what would happen is the whole meal would get blended up in a jug and served in a bowl, okay? That was kind of the puree diets. And luckily now, things have really, really moved on. Best thing to use, piping bags, really simple and easy to use. Obviously, I'm doing this cold today, but you could either reheat this up, so you could blend this down, depending upon your standards, whether or not you're allowed to keep it for so many hours or days. Then you can regen this back up, and it may be in a steam oven or in the microwave. Once you've done that, do the tests again, because heating this up, cooling it down, the texture is going to change. So you always need to make sure you do your test again before you serve it up. Some ways you can plate up. If it's a sandwich, you can plate that up, cover it, put it in the fridge, but be aware that obviously once it's in the fridge, again, it's going to change texture again. Okay, so just keep these things in mind. The biggest thing to remember is test, test, test. Okay, every time you do it, always test and check again. So we're going to start with an egg. So we're going to do a fried egg. So what I've got here is I've got some egg white, which I've fortified with full fat milk, okay, and really taken that down. So let me bring you to the top of the plate. So we've got 2 rings here. This one I'm going to use for toast. This one I'm going to use for the egg. So I'm literally going to put a little bit of puree in there. Now, remember, when you're using these purees about the portion size, because you've pureed this down, it's going to take a lot less space up than it would if it was a whole egg, okay? So I'm just going to take that ring off the top. So we've now got a nice, simple, round egg. Just bring you to that camera so you can see there. Then what I've got is I've got some egg yolk, which I've taken to the level 4. I've done my tests on that. Now you can either pipe this on, or I'm literally just going to place some on top, okay? Bring it back to the top. So fried egg with a yolk on the top. Now if you wanted to, for the white, you could use Merry White. You don't have to use I've boiled the eggs here, and I've literally just separated the eggs and the yolk, and then kept them like that, and it works really well. Now you could also do this for a boiled egg, maybe with a salad. Now here we've got toast, okay? So I've toasted the bread. So coming back to the question earlier with regards to gluten-free, use a gluten-free bread, blend that down with your fortification, full-fat milk, for example, and then you could do a sandwich or you could do toast. So toast in here, and I'm literally just going to place this into this square mould just to give it a little bit of a nicer appearance. We'll take that off the top. Then I've got the baked beans we've just literally made. So let's come back to the top so you can see inside. Now you could do this for tin spaghetti. You could do this for, if I show you with the piping method, you could do this also for peas. So let's literally put some beans on the top. Let's bring my head back out of the way. You could do toast with a fried egg on top. So we've now got toast with baked beans. So let's bring them back so you can see a little bit closer there. Now I've got sausage. So what we've done here is we've basically blended the sausage up. We have sieved this. This will depend a lot upon the type and the quality of the sausage you've got. If there's a little bit of gristle in there, you're not going to get that down no matter what you do. Now, same with bacon, okay? So what I'm going to do is bring you back to the top. I'm going to do a couple of sausages just on the side of the plate. Do that over there and another one there. So we've got 2 sausages, beans. We've got some mushrooms. So I've pureed these down. Now, the thing is, when you're pureeing down, I like to try and not use too much butter. And the reason for that is the butter will change with the room temperature. So the mushroom, I'm going to put a little dollop there and a little one on top. So it's an upside down mushroom. Or you could do one there and one there. Okay, so you can see the 2 different types of mushroom there. And the idea is, coming back to that Dine with Dignity campaign, is trying to make the food look as close to the real thing as possible, but also I'm aware that you have time restraints. Okay, so it's trying to do something that's quick and easy. Now, tomatoes, what we've done here is we've taken some passata and we've checked the thickness, we've adapted it where we need to. You've then got a couple of tomatoes on the side. So let's come to that one so you can see there. And if you want to, you do a little bit of spinach. A little bit of frozen spinach blended to a puree on the top. Now, brown sauce. I like brown sauce on my full English, HP. Or you could use tomatoes. It's completely up to you, tomato sauce. But the sauce needs to be level 4. If this is a level 4 meal, everything on this plate needs to be level 4. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a little bit of the sauce. I'm going to put that on the side, and we've done our checks, and it passes all of our checks. We've now got, let's check, we've got everything there. So let's bring you back to the top. Fried egg with tomatoes. You could use passata, or you could roast the tomato and blend it down, either way, but you could then use that for a salad. We've done sausages here. You could do the same with this for bacon. We've done toast with beans, but you could do that with spaghetti, or you could use the same piping technique for peas. We've done mushrooms, a little bit of brown sauce, and there we have a full English breakfast. Now, coming back to what I said just now, you don't have to do this as a whole, what I've done here. You could take elements of this. You could take the egg, use it in a salad. Instead of bacon, you could do ham, for example. So there's lots of little variations there. So if anyone has any questions about this, we've got the Q&A at the end, so feel free to ask any questions. And now I'll hand back over to Andy.
Jamie, Oh, Jamie, thank you very much. I can't believe you absolutely ruined the dinner there with or the breakfast with some HP sauce. Absolutely disgraceful. Thank you very much. I hope that was insightful for you all. Obviously, Jamie is a leading expert in the field that we, partner with in order to help, deliver solutions like this to the care sector. So what we're going to go on to now is just to talk a little bit about some new products that we've brought into the business to help support you in your care homes and your kitchens for your residents around IDDSI and dysphagia. So again, just due to some technical challenges, we pre-recorded this with James in our development kitchen. So I'm just going to now play a video of just the application of the product as well that we've brought in for thickener.
A great product that we have in our range, which is aimed at the care sector, is Nutritious. So Nutritious is designed to adapt the texture of meals. So this is really important for residents that may have eating disorders, chewing problems, or swallowing issues, such as dysphagia. So this product just helps to create a really smooth, even and lump-free consistency food. I've just got some tin pictures here. So I'll just show you a really simple example of how easy it is to use. So it's really important that you use a blender with this product just to create a really lump-free and smooth finished product. So I've got about half a tin of peaches here. And then some of the syrup. I'm just going to add 1 tablespoon of Nutritious. And then I'm going to blend for about 30 seconds just to make sure there's no bits left in there. So as you can see, that's thickened up nicely. You could always add some more to make it thicker, and you can always add more liquids just to reduce it down, or just to make it thinner. Which I could just do here, just to show you, just to bring it back to your desired consistency. Just give it a quick blend. So yeah, you can add more. You can then let it down. So again, this is a great product. It can be used in hot and cold, sweet and savoury, just for all your meals that you plan on the day.
Great. Yeah. So obviously James showed you we do have some thickener that's new to our business. It's obviously fantastic for food. Hot, cold, sweet or savoury. And what we also realise within that, and what we've recently brought in, we've also brought in some pre-made, ready-made breakfast, mains and dessert options. We understand that catering staff aren't always trained or confident. So perhaps in those times, either people are off sick or someone wants to eat in the middle of the night, or in the situation where they're not confident, there are pre-prepared meals we have that are a level 4 IDDSI that homes can deliver to their residents. You might not have the right equipment, or your equipment might break. So a really good solution for any time of day for that as well. We do have the ability as well to bring in any other levels as well around IDDSI through our supply partner, Mrs. Gills. And obviously, if you want to either try and sample any of these dishes, then please speak to your account manager at Creed. And these are a simple reheat and serve food dishes as well for level 4. What we have produced for you as well that will be sent out is we've produced a really good handout. So this handout is, well, it will cover what is dysphagia. It will cover, you know, the IDDSI reference and framework for you as well, which we've obviously touched upon earlier. And it's got some really good tips from our development chefs, James and also Rob. And these top tips will cover things such as foods to avoid. It will cover fortification, as Jamie alluded to earlier. A lot of people who suffer with dysphagia also do suffer, or generally suffer, with malnourishment as well. So how can we fortify that? Presentation of food, obviously we saw some elements that Jamie does, and there's also some other helpful hints and tips and guidance for you, and some really important things actually. So, you know, things that you have to check before service and before eating as well. So like the leaching, as Jamie alluded to, that can happen on plates. And then kind of lastly on there, there's a really, really good guide for a good practice checklist for a whole home approach around dysphagia. So you can then go back and you can take that to your home to look to ensure that, you know, right throughout, you know, inside and outside of the kitchen is following it. And as mentioned, this will all be shared with you following on from the webinar. And if you can just ensure as well any polls or what have you that kind of pop up as well, if you make sure, then, you know, put in your responses so we can act upon it.
Oh, thanks, Andy. Okay, so we are now at the Q&A point of the presentation. So I will just stop sharing the screen so that you can see everybody. Brilliant. So thank you, Jamie, for answering some of the questions that came through earlier. I'll just have a quick look to see if any more have come through. The handout, just to clarify, will be sent to everyone who registered for the webinar, so those who are attending live now and those who were unable to join us. So if everyone keeps an eye out for an email that you'll receive tomorrow, you'll get the recording, you'll get the handout, and you'll get the videos as well that were shared. So all of you will get that without having to do anything else. I think there is a question from Samantha. So this might be one for you, Jamie. I'll just read it out loud. So can you tell me the overall cost per resident for the thickener? I have 14 puree, 9 minced, moist, 4 soft bite sized and 2 liquidized. So if I'm going to use the thickener, I'll need to know the volume. I think that might actually be one for Andy.
Yeah, so I guess in response to that, Samantha, so if you contact your Creed account manager, they'll be able to go through this with you. And certainly if you speak to them kindly, because it's a new product into us, we'll see how we may be able to support you with that, basically to trial it as well and work with our supply partner, Essential Cuisine, on that.
Can I say on that one as well, Samantha, with this, I've used this, it's really good. But with the purees and the minced and moist, it depends what you're using it for. For example, this, I've done a full English breakfast meal here on a pureed, and I've probably only used 2 tablespoons of this, and I could have done 4 or 5 portions. Yeah, if I was doing a tomato sauce, I might need more. So it does really depend on what you're doing. So I think it'd be very difficult. But saying that, this compared to all the other thickeners out there is probably one of the better ones.
Thanks, Jamie.
No worries.
And we'll just give everyone 2 more minutes. So if anyone does have any final questions, please get that in as quick as you can. And I'll just kind of wrap up while we're seeing if any other questions come through. So hopefully everyone who's joined us today has learned something to take back to their teams. Obviously, as Andy said, this was an introduction. It's quite a complex topic, and hopefully later in the year we will have some more in-depth webinars as well. So do keep an eye on Creed social channels, sign up to our newsletter so that when we do release the dates of future webinars, you can sign up for those as soon as they're released. And I will just share one final screen with everybody. Again, this presentation will come through to you all, but we have pulled some references together and just some really helpful websites that will give you more information. So it's things like, you know, the NHS website, IDDSI's website, just a range of different sites there, and one of RoboCoop's, one of Jamie's videos as well. Contact details on here for Andy and Jamie, so if you did have any follow-up, you wanted any more information, please drop us a line. And yeah, thank you, Jamie, for your time. Thanks to Andy and Anna and James, who have pulled together this presentation and done the videos beforehand as well. And that is it for today. So thank you, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you at the next webinar.
Do you want me to answer those last two questions?
Yeah, please, if you could, that'd be great, Jamie.
Yeah, so Jordan, it's much better. It doesn't clump. This is perfect for food because you can use it hot and cold. I find with the Thick and Easy one, this is just coming from me independently. I'm not tied into any of them. This one's much, much better. I find with the Thick and Easy, it tends to clump up quite a lot, but that's just my own personal point there. David, the smallest portion that work in the Blixer. So we do over 20 different sizes. This one here is the Blixer 2. This will do 1 to 5. However, I find one portion in it extremely difficult. So I say 2 to 5. If you're doing 5 to 10, we do Blixer 3. 10 to 15, we do Blixer 4. So we've got different sizes for different people. But for David, David Lloyd, isn't that Jim? I'm sure you've had that before, David. But yeah, feel free to contact me, and I'm happy to speak to you about different sizes separately. Also, if anyone does want any demos, quick little plug, kitchenhub.live, where I am at the moment. You can go on there and you can book virtual demos or training sessions with myself as well. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jamie.
I
Okay,
think
I think that is it. Yeah. No more questions.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. And yeah, stay tuned for kind of more webinars, more handouts, more solutions and more topics as well that we're going to cover over the course of the year. And we're going to see Jamie's smiley face as well, no doubt as well later on in the year. But yeah, thanks again all. And yeah, have a great end to the day.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. All the best. Bye-bye.